Good morning. Well, war, no war. Things change from moment to moment. Anyway, we trade on the technicals. And so the thought is, when does it matter? When does the bounce matter? Unfortunately, it matters when it's gone too far. And so depending on the time frame that we're trading from, we got to pick what's too far. And too far can mean giving back all profits. In a situation like this, it should never mean turning it into a loss, but it can mean placing a stop somewhere where technically it's insignificant. So it's a tricky type of situation, of course. Anyway, this bounce here, it's the beginning of the day. So far, I would say it's normal. It doesn't mean that this retracement, this downtrend, and what we've been talking about for 2 weeks, the pattern of the move up, the higher low, higher high, and this move down is over. Getting a green bar, and today is far from over, getting a green bar within an overall bigger picture doesn't change the bigger picture. We'd rather it just keep dropping, of course. That's what we're looking for. And if we got short positions or puts or call spreads, you just want it to just keep dropping. But technically, you could see what was happening here. It was building up some support and resistance. And at that point, it's like it becomes a standoff. Which way is it going to go? Who's going to blink? And, Russia news they're backing away. Who the hell knows? I mean, it's ridiculous. They're going to war. Now they're backing away. I mean, political maneuvering and games and pushing the markets around. Anyway, nothing we can do about it. Put it in perspective. Weekly uptrend is broke. We got a sell set up. And unless this retraces deep into here, how far is too far? Well, when we look to the left, there's a pretty big area of congestion here. This was the void, and it hit this resistance. It's beginning to back off, and we'll see what it does. And, sitting through this, it's like it's in the unknown. It happens, and we'll just see how it plays out. You can see, it's beginning to roll over a little bit here, and we'll see how far it goes. And now as we go down to smaller time frames, here's the support. And now, just like this is the void below, right? Because it went up as it did. And this opens up the door to, hey, if sellers want to continue to step up here, this is the right place, give or take. And now as this begins to roll over, if it breaks below here, there's going to be little to nothing to stop it from going down. And then this turns into a topping tail. And theoretically, if all of this plays out, and if this is a topping tail at the end of the day, this is the futures, we're going to get a gap up. So that, and we're looking at the spiders or SPX, it's going to be a gap and crap, and we'll get a red bar. And if that's the case, that's going to set up, looking into tomorrow, a measured move lower. Right? So every day we see what we start with, and we see what we end with, and we put it in the context of this bigger picture that guides us into the next day. And so from this higher time frame, nothing has changed. You've got a broken uptrend. We've got a nasty move to the downside. It bounced off of support, and we've got a turn. And we'll see where it goes from here. Spiders. And so 446 is where it came up to. Pretty big bounce, pretty deep into this big red bar and into that resistance. And you can see the line moving there on the hourly chart into what we call minor resistance, which is subjective. It's beyond what's to the left, because in reality, the resistance is up here. But this is a situation, these overlapping opens and closes here, 447 and change. We want to see this subjective reference point from a bearish point of view, taking hold, and sellers coming in that area, Right? It's always an area, 445, 446. That's what's happening. We can see here. And we want to see it roll back over, because what we want ultimately, it's not that we're always bearish, because we're not. What we want ultimately is for this sell setup to follow through and prices to come down here and get our market internals lined up to where, yep, this is all broken, but it's going to create a larger opportunity for us, even though charts are damaged, where we may eventually, in a month from now, be talking about this becoming a big, wide, wispy trading range. Right? We'll see how it unfolds. Those that are here, for months or years and going out in the future, you remember these conversations. You can go back and listen to them on YouTube and see what the thought process was and how it evolves. Yeah. That's it. It's about repetition, Robert. That's why we call it factory work. And factory work has a negative connotation to it. I mean, if you ever worked in a factory, kind of like as a kid, before, I went away to school in Denver. I worked it wasn't a factory, but it was a book publishing place. And you sat at a table and they brought a pallet of books over with packing slips, and you packed it up, you put it in the box, sent it away. You finished that pallet, they just brought another one over. So you never had a sense of accomplishment, so to speak. So yeah, you finished that pallet, but here comes the next one, and it's never going to stop. So factory work. But we love this kind of factory work, but sometimes it gets annoying because of the erratic price movement that's going on, and it is what it is, right? So we either trade from a higher time frame where we're sitting through the noise, or if we're active in smaller time frames, it can become more difficult as things get more whippy, right? So it's kind of where we are. All right, so we'll see if this turns into a gap and crap, gapping up here. We'll see if we get a gap and a red bar down here. As I said, if we do get that and it closes weak, down near the low, tomorrow I'll be talking about the possibility of a measured move lower, which will take prices down below here, right? And that'll give us a continuation setup, right? Sometimes gap and craps and like this, or a continuation setup. Sometimes they go up and we get a topping tail that breaks a high and closes weak, and that can be a continuation setup. And we did a continuation MT live a few weeks ago. So different subjects. This week, we're going to be talking about market internals and some longer term and shorter term. So it'll be interesting. They always are. All right. NASDAQ, you can see it's up here. Is it a big deal? No, it's not. So yeah, I mean, yesterday buyers stepped up there at support, jiggled around, entered the void, popped up. Now it's trying to roll back over. It is on the 5-minute. We'll see if it continues to go down, and this becomes a topping tail at the end of the day. If it's a green bar at the end of the day and it closes right here, it's not going to change our opinion about the bearishness of this trend. And then we'll just see how it goes. That's what bar by bar analysis is, because we project this, what's going to happen. We've projected that this is going to go lower. And now we see each bar that forms, has it changed our bias? Now, if this bar at the end of the day is closing up here and it's a monster green bar, yeah, that's going to shake the confidence as whether what's going to happen here. And then I'll be talking about a trading range here. And whether this can, what we would want to see at that point is that range continue for a while and tighten up, which could lead to a move higher. But look, we don't have that now. We're kind of just in the middle of, condensing or consolidating, what's going on here, the uncertainty of news, what happened with the Fed yesterday with this meeting that was going on, this emergency meeting. Is that something that's out there that's going to blindside us in the middle of the day? It could be. Qs coming up. Drag this down here. Where are we? 355-ish. pretty deep, pretty real deep into the red bar. Now, does this create a trading range up here? So if it should, obviously we could all see everything we're looking at is it's rolled over here. And it came up into this area, 355 or so, which has now created this support from yesterday. Right? And so we need to make our adjustments. And so 350 area now becomes our support. It's gapping above yesterday's high. Yesterday's high now is our reference point of support. It's gapping, gap to 355-ish. 55. Well, this overlapping area right here. You can see right there. And now, if it comes down here, does this hold? So I think it's going to be another tough day as far as intraday on the indices anyway. YM, so far, not really a big deal. Same pattern. Minor resistance coming back in. And look, this is so close to these pivot highs, but this is what we call the subjective support, minor support. In reality, there's nothing below here. Well, that bottoming tail right there, you can see is this pivot on the 5-minute and on the 15. That's that bottoming tail bar. And so, if you're trading from this time frame, recognizing bottoming tail bars are going to be a pivot on a smaller time frame. And that should be, if this continues to move down, right, that becomes a little bit more neutralizing this move to an extent, because when it comes up like this, what you want to see from a bullish point of view, when it's got a void, is it goes sideways here and then it pushes higher. So that would be the bullish scenario for today, is that this actually holds here and comes back up into this area, and then it opens up the door to going, obviously up into here. And it's a good example, why this is subjective. When you go beyond what's directly to the left, and the rule is, right, we have to have rules to our analysis. Otherwise, it just becomes haphazard. And the rule is, right, has it traded above and below? Right, that's right in the course. If it trades above and below, it neutralizes that area. And sometimes you don't have that. It's just gone on one side and not the other. So here we go. Does it hold? If you can get through here, and our bias is it's going to come up into here. Looks like based on lower time frames, gap and crap seems to be playing out. Spider zone. We just have at the Dow up here, and we see it beginning to roll over, and this is buyers are going to show up at that pivot, and then we'll see, does it start to turn back up again? Does it break? News, is driving this market right now, and who knows what news comes out, in the next 5 minutes, hour. Going back here, it's the same scenario. Well, that's beginning to get a little bit weaker. Okay. All right. Breaking below the pivot here. It's getting weaker. It's got room to fall. Now, one of the things that you have to consider, while this is weak, when it retraces more than 100%, typically it's going to stall. And that's probably what it's going to begin to do right now, that it's retraced greater than 100%. So, the open's going to be a little tricky. And Bitcoin up a bit, holding up here. We'll see how that closes at the end of the day. Crude oil, they're talking, Russians backed off, a few troops backed off. So oil's coming in. And so immediate reaction. The way we view this is that momentum is slowing. How do we do that? Well, strong momentum, got a little weaker, still strong. And now the highs are much closer together. And yesterday I said, be careful with a wide range bar like this. It's powerful, but if it comes down underneath it, And that becomes bearish. So we'll see. Right now, it's in the upper half. And we'll see where this ends the day. Uncertainty kind of going away. Silver comes in a lot. Gold comes in. Right. Still, it's up at resistance. So it's up to the left there, and makes sense that it's coming in a bit. Transports right, on some support. Little 1, 2, 3 pattern. We'll see where that. Let's see if XYT shows really not much of anything there either to tell us direction. But so this could be. It could turn into what we call a 1, 2, 3, 4, meaning this is the one bar, the power bar. This is the inside bar, and then it's got to break the low to continue lower. Well, the markets are opening higher here. Sometimes what we get is what we call a 1, 2, 3, 4, which is nothing more where it takes out the high, and it's actually a much better setup, and then we get a bar like that, and then when it takes it out, because you got a longer period of consolidation if we had another day here, especially if it pops up above these highs and it becomes a bit of a shock pattern. And so we'll see. Again, today we go into seeing what actually sets up today. How far does it potentially, begin to negate this? So rather, do at the end of the day, do we have a bar like that that questions the signal from this bar? So, and we're in the mode of needing some more information here, as from this time frame intraday. Things will set up one way or the other as to what direction they're going to move, but it might take a little bit of time. So that's it from me. For you, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, I was shocked at the size of the gap up this morning, because I got there's no way to know this because the market's always discounting everything that's going on in the world. But I kind of thought it was more interest rate, inflation related fear as opposed to Russian fear, war. And then the big old gap. And then I was also surprised, actually, when we had the ugly PPI number at 8:30, that we actually didn't get a much bigger negative number. I mean, they expected 0.4, and we got 1.0 PPI. That's horrible. But it's kind of more slowly drifting here. So you heard the bias. Our opens here, we do have a bear call credit spreads on Tesla. Tesla's actually holding up very strong here pre-market, but we're $60 away. We got the 960s over all this resistance. We'll keep an eye. Possibly we leg into a condor, 30-minute high. We can maybe do the 850s and below. Boeing, we have a call spread, but the 2 1/4s. So that's still $11 away, and we closed half yesterday. What else? Spider, we met our target on the call spread, so we're out of that one, like 20 cents. Just looking around here. I think everything else is fine. Just holler if you have a question on anything. I don't have that many earnings gappers today. Jets, they were talking on CNBC how Jim, no, I wouldn't. Without me even looking, Jim, the answer of whether to re-enter Tesla is approach it as a new setup, which we'll be happy to do. But as of right now, with the bullish gap and bullish pre-market, the answer is no. We're in defense mode right now. There was some talk about expected pickup in demand for international summer travel. And I don't know if that's what's causing some of these gap ups here, or if it's just gapping up with the broader markets, of course, but there's no pattern is the problem. Look at UAL. And this is a nice, beautiful bottom on UAL. We actually sold puts down here at the time. Nice wide range bar from all these tails of major support. And had a really nice run. Carnival Cruise Line came out and said they're going to fire up all their ships for the summer. And maybe that's why jets are in it too. That's a bullish gap. There's nothing to do for a daily, but 30-minute high day trade. You got a nice void here. You got a nice gap to yesterday's high and bullish pre-market. So that's worth watching. I'll put that in a window. A Marriott. So again, the leisure theme. Look at that. Marriott that close to all-time highs here. Unbelievable. Look at that. Unbelievable. It went down to $55 and it's at all-time highs with Corona flying way down, this and that. IPW, nice. This is a pro gap. IPW is a pro gap. It's in a downtrend, declining 20, declining 50, gapping over this red bar, gapping over all this, and there's a price void. So that's worth watching. But that's the definition of a pro gap, igniting a new move. Bottom right here, arriving. I don't know if it's up because of Tesla or whatever, but this is the recent IPO on a EV stock car maker. And I've been watching this for signs of bottoming. Wow, look at the volume yesterday. And I like the gap. So this could be a home run entry for, when somebody says, hey, is it a core long? It's like, I don't know. It's a climactic buy setup. You got tails. Could this, but it could be the all-time low. I don't know. But 30-minute high, I like this a lot for swing trade and also a put spread. So I got that at the bottom right. Zulu Delta it's gapping down, and that's very weak. And there's a big price void on the weekly. So that looks fantastic as a short. I'm going to put that in the thumbnail. It's earnings, so we'll just see what it does at the open. Hey, John. TNet earnings, can't tell where you're gapping, but you had upside shakeout and a bear 1, 2, 3 and a sell setup on the weekly. So that's my bias right now is bearish, but I have no clue where it's gapping right now. None. ANET 132. Now that's a huge bullish gap also. Kind of have a trading range downtrend or a sideways trend, and it's gapping over it with a price void. So that's a put spread candidate. RLGT, beautiful bottoming pattern here. The problem is it's gapping pretty big. Gapping to 720 is over 10%. Still looks higher though. We'll come back to it. BKD has to break out. The couple of attempts to break out failed, but also attempts to break down failed. You got converging 20 and 50. So let's see what it does. I'd rather set an alarm to the upside because I'm not crazy about shorting $5 stocks. Intuit, they just reaffirmed earnings, but no pattern. SCI, I see a gap or two up here, but it's not very liquid, but it's a deep retracement and a pullback and a bullish gap. So that's a bullish bias. LDOS 82, bearish gap down. But see how this one is such more chaotic of a gap breakdown than Zulu Delta. See the difference here? This is a superior weekly chart for a continuation breakdown. Target 90 to 95. I don't know where this thing's going, but I like that one as a short. Gapping down here, gap's too big. See, I always go to the weekly to see how much room it has. And I don't know if this is all-time lows. Let me check monthly, and it's not, you see? Because I couldn't see the left over here. And it still has room to fall, even though it's, you know, I still like the Zulu Delta better. Yeah, Sean, that'll be our start. Yeah, I don't know where I have the current stop now, but yeah, 30-minute high. So this one still looks weaker, but it's not as clean of an entry. ECL, looks like you're not very liquid. We'll come back. ZTS up to 200. It's just gap into resistance. No pattern. Marriott we looked at. LGIH. Can't tell where you're gapping, but as of now, you're just a consolidation and a downtrend with a bearish weekly, bearish monthly. On 38.50. It's a bullish gap. We'll come back to you. Wow, car was up earlier this morning. This is ADIS. So I don't have a bias what to come back. Swabi. Greg found this yesterday. Swabi bottoming pattern. It would be great if it took out yesterday's high after 30 minutes. I mean, 30 minutes I love just because they've settled down and you have higher confidence of a continuation. THS. Now, it had a big move yesterday, but it was a bullish close on the 15. So 5, 10, 15, 30-minute high. Then that